Hi, this is Sarah Middleton, and this is my presentation titled Reconnecting to the Past Using Archives as a Bridge Between Place and Multimodality. This project was born out of our readings this semester, focused on breaking away from traditional forms of composition. Alphabetic composition and text, like essays, articles, literature, are one cog in a familiar English education experience where students follow formulaic benchmarks to create a final product aimed at assessing their growth in knowledge and skills. Many of these assessments are generic and standardized, lacking any authenticity or meaningful applications for outside of the classroom. Two solutions for breaking away from traditional composition are multimodality and place theory. First, multimodality, the act of composing with many mediums other than only traditional writing, offers an alternative so students can engage in multiple literacies for composition. And second, place theory offers the opportunity to connect students to their community and practice composition about real life, locally driven issues. However, a third solution exists that incorporates the benefits of both of these methodologies: archival research. When studying the archives, which are collections of historical documents and records, students engage in the practice of multimodality through working with various types of text, sound, images, and items. However, when investigating through local archives, students also get the chance to learn more about their community and its history. So, a big part of my final paper was an assignment sequence using archival research, place theory, and multimodality. Instead of looking through a bunch of texts about these topics for this presentation, I wanted to go through my sequence. So, first, I'm going to go over the background for the assignment sequence. Then I'll actually go through each of the applications and describe how they go together. So, to begin, my classroom demographic is made up of students ranging from 16 to 18 years old, taking their junior English course. Before this sequence, students completed a unit over Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where they worked on literary analysis. This assignment leads into the spring semester, where students will again work with archives to look at rhetorical appeals. Furthermore, my school places an emphasis on English courses incorporating an Appalachian connection into each of the units. There are no limits to what the connection is, fiction or nonfiction, supporting or anchor text. Since my school is in the Appalachian region, the administration just requires some means of connection to each unit to kind of reflect the students. Though this assignment is centered on secondary education in a specific region, the practices can be adapted for post-secondary education and for different regions. The Common Core standard I would tie this sequence to is the third reading informational text standard that says students should analyze a complex set of ideas or sequence of events and explain how specific individuals, ideas, or events interact and develop over the course of the text. Finally, I also wanted to align this sequence with some of the Conference on College Composition and Communications, the CCCC position statements. The first statement I focused on was about the importance of students working with authentic audiences in their composition course. They state that instructors should emphasize that qualities of good writing are situated within genuine purposes, audiences, and context for writing. This includes developing assignments that engage students in the study of and practice with writing rather than modes, forms, or invented situations. Another principle from the CCCC's position statement that inspired my ideas in creating this sequence is the need to incorporate technology into composition courses. This principle argues that students need to experiment with various forms of technology to produce their writing. They say, writers learn about the potential that various technologies have for the production, consumption, and distribution of forms of composed knowledge. This includes writing, but also includes the composition of other types of texts, video, podcasts, etc. One last piece of background for this sequence is a methodology I found in the book I chose for my book review earlier in the semester. The book was called Teaching in the Archives, and in it was an essay called Using the Archives to Teach Slow Research and Create Local Connections by Lisa Mastrangelo. In her essay, Mastrangelo defines slow research as slow and careful analysis of documents, the search for information not readily available, and extrapolations of information based on obscure textual clues. And she explains that through the assignments in her course, the students use slow research to negotiate archival material and primary source research, raise questions that couldn't or wouldn't be answered, and explore their local surroundings and the history of the institution. So after reading how Mastrangelo used archives and slow research in her composition course, I just wanted to be aware of how or if my students would engage in it as well. All right, now to get to the actual sequence. For the first assignment, which I called the archive slideshow, students are presented with this picture without any context, asked to write down their observations about the picture, who's in it, what are they doing, what stands out as odd or interesting, and make a guess on what the title could be for this original picture. For my class, I divided them up in groups and gave them physical pictures to work with, but you could complete this digitally as well. Now, in the picture, students pointed out that they saw children making brooms in some kind of shed with a man watching over them, and they could tell it was obviously an old picture. Now, after students reflect, they are given a new set of pictures, and they again write down their observations, but now with a different question to answer. How does this picture change or add to your ideas in the previous section? And they are again asked to make a guess as to what the title of the first picture could be. So from here, the students noticed that the buildings were really well kept, that there was electricity, and they were thinking that this was just some kind of like private housing or apartments. They really weren't sure how this picture and the previous picture connected. Then I showed them these two pictures, and they really focused in on how strict these two pictures feel. They guessed that this was some kind of military academy. They were surprised that there seemed to be a group of girls also at this place, where the original picture only showed a group of boys. They really focused in on the strictness, but they thought that this was some kind of like military boarding school scenario. In this picture, they really started to focus in on the expressions of the students. I had some students who, had the picture all the way up to their noses because they were trying to look at the individual students' faces here. So this is where the assignment kind of took a really dramatic turn. Some students really started to think that this was, there's two main guesses here. One guess was that this was some kind of like super strict cult, that they, no one really knew what it was, but this was some cultish place is what they said. And the other one, the more dramatic turn, was probably the majority of students thought that they were looking at some kind of concentration camp just for students, is what they said. They said they didn't know where, but that is what they felt like this represented. And then I showed them these pictures, which of course, they didn't have this citation down here at the bottom. It was just these pictures. And they really leaned in on that idea that I was showing them some kind of concentration camp in Germany. Now, after this, I made sure to show them actual pictures of those places, and I told their history teachers that maybe they should review those time periods in history and go a little bit deeper into those. But that was the main idea here, was that all of them pretty much thought that we were looking at, like 1940s Germany. So after seeing all of these pictures, students were shown the Kentucky Historic Institutions page, which led them and talked to them about the Kentucky House of Reform, which is now I think it's the Blackburn Correctional Facility. It's a low security prison in Frankfurt is what it is now. But, they read the history of this place, and they were told the final title, the final title of that original picture. It was Children Making Brooms at the Kentucky Reformatory at Greendale. So this first assignment follows the theories of archival research, incorporates elements of place theory, and explores options for multimodality. It makes students really engage in critical thinking because students puzzle about the original picture's title as each picture shown to them is selected to make them question the truth they first saw. By the time they got to the end, I think most of them had completely forgotten about the fact that the original picture was just of kids making brooms. Though it isn't revealed until the very end that the pictures are from Kentucky, the students' realization that the pictures are from their state and not some distant location provides the interest and connection to the assignment for place theory. Finally, multimodality is incorporated into the assignment through the use of the pictures, which again can either be incorporated or can be physical or digital. For me, I prefer the physical because having the tangible items in front of them calls the students to engage in Mastrangello's slow research process. They couldn't zoom in on the picture and had to instead really look at them to find the details. Now, the next assignment in the sequence is short, but it establishes the necessary knowledge students need to complete the final assessment. So for this component, students listen to oral histories about their hometown and answer questions about the stories they hear. To begin, students are directed to Eastern Kentucky University's William H. Burge Oral History Center's website. I have that linked here. So the Oral History Center is a collaboration between EKU Special Collection and Archives, university members, and community to collect spoken memories and personal commentaries of historical significance through a recorded dialogue between an interviewer and an interviewee. After a brief demonstration on how to best navigate the site, students are set loose to choose and listen to one of the oral histories. So they would come up to here, they would search Irvin, and then they would have all of these to kind of root through and search for. Another way is to go to the tags. They would go to I, scroll down, and then there would be Irvin again. And again, they would just look through them all and eventually choose one to listen through. Now, after listening to the oral histories, they begin comparing the experience of the interviewee to their own life. By the end, students will write an open-ended response to the question, what is the importance of written or oral stories, which to tie in their new work back to the essential question of the previous unit. Of course, this question can be changed depending on where you're putting this in a unit. Now, the final assessment draws together all of the work students have been working on so far and asks them to create their own oral histories or archives. For the first option, students have the choice to create their own oral history documenting a family member or other loved one's life experiences. Students can record them on their phones or school-issued computers' video or audio recorder. Then students upload their final product to YouTube so they can keep it in an easily accessible place. For this assignment, students are required to not only submit the final recording, but also a list of 10 potential questions to ask their interviewee and a one-page reflection on the entire experience. For the second option, students create some piece of craftsmanship that reflects a piece of their heritage. Any type of craftsmanship is acceptable: blacksmithing, carpentry, weaving, quilting, pottery, engineering, painting, digital art, etc. Those students can create this artifact with the help of family members or loved ones. One of the required components is to document through pictures or videos how they assisted in the creation process of their artifact. Other required components include a paragraph description of their artifact and an additional page reflection on the entire process. The goal of this assignment is to offer students authentic purposes for their schoolwork and open the doorway for multimodal interpretation. Overall, I think this sequence is it successfully incorporates elements of archival research, place theory, and multimodality to create highly engaging composition lessons. I think it could be improved in multiple ways, such as describing any pre-work students would complete about the issues and ethics of archives, and investing more time into students engaging in slow research with different forms of archives. However, I think this project's frameworks serves as a solid foundation on how to use archival research as a bridge between place theory and multimodality. For future research projects, I would like to investigate how to connect the work started here and connect it to other compositional principles, such as writing across the curriculum. The archives, though they are records of history, are multidisciplinary in the possibilities for their use in the classroom. Though the focus of this piece has been specifically on secondary English, fields across the education system could benefit from the adoption of archival research, place theory, and multimodality. These methods described in this essay all serve to offer instructors examples of how to create authentic, meaningful experiences for students that traditional writing cannot achieve alone.